How are you actually physically going to get consensus around some of these things?
Well, I think it is up to a point. As I sort of said publicly a few times now, if you can get 80 to 90% agreement on the major things, that's good. If you take housing, for example, I mean, there's a bit of stuff rats and mice around the edges, around social housing. Labor think we're not doing enough and, all that sort of stuff. But actually the broad thrust of housing reforms that we're doing are actually a continuation of where the previous government, left off. There is actually much more, I think, consensus-driven stuff than people probably appreciate. Housing's a good example of that. On infrastructure, I think we can get to sort of 80 to 90% agreement on the major things. I mean, if you take congestion charging, for example, or time of use pricing, that bill's before select committee right now, but under the previous government, there was a select committee inquiry which met with unanimous cross-party support for the concept of congestion pricing. We've produced a piece of legislation on the back of that, which is now going through the process. Very hopeful we'll get consensus to introduce that. So it's very important from a productivity point of view. Labor have a differing view to us on PPPs. It's not actually 100% clear what their view is, to be honest, but at various different points they've said they're not in favour of private capital for schools and hospitals, for example. Now, there's private capital involved in both those things now, but anyway, leaving that aside, they're sort of not comfortable with that. Likewise for corrections. So it's a sort of ideological thing. So that's fine. Like, they're entitled to that view. People can have a debate about it. As I sort of said on stage, and I've said a few times now, the Greens are always going to be more in favour of cycleways than roads. People kind of know that. That's fine. But it's all around the edges, let's face it. I mean, cycleways make sense in some places, not all the time. We wouldn't do as many of them as the Greens would, but that's fine. Yeah. You can have a debate about the edges. So I reckon, healthy debates. One thing I always say to people around the bipartisan stuff is, if you all agreed, some people will say that's good, but actually, in a robust, healthy democracy, disagreement's fine. Yeah. There are differing views about what we should be doing. That's totally fine. That's part of what makes living in a democracy a good thing.